episode is sponsored by Squarespace.
Another video. Happy birthday. Oh, well, it is my birthday in a couple of weeks, but it's, it's not my birthday. 41. Off. 41. Do I look like I'm 41, really? I'll be 40. If I was in Logan's Run, I'd be dead already. How depressing is that? Oh, Hello everyone, welcome to episode 63. Today I wanted to mix it up. I wanted to do something different. I scratch build things, I sculpt things, I'd even do some drawings, paintings, and maybe stick stuff in frames and just all sorts of, I like to mix it up. I don't like to do the same thing that everyone else does, You get those miniature channels that will just paint a miniature, and then the next episode, guess what, they're painting a miniature again. But today, for a change, I'm going to paint some miniatures. Now, I put up a little poll on YouTube. I said, what would you like me to do? Would you like me to make some bead bots? Would you like me to make some more terrain? Would you like me to make the citizens of Respite? When I put that poll up, I was kind of in the mood for some bead bots, because I haven't made bead bots in a while. And you lot voted for, kit bashing. So Respite, if you don't know, is a made-up town inside a made-up world inside my head. I think I'm made up. Do I exist? It's a way to keep all my builds canon. I would make something, give it a backstory, and then in my head, that thing interacted with another build that I've made. Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just less budget. Yeah, I'm going to kit bash the citizens of Respite today, because that's what you voted for. But to be honest, I want to do this too. I've been meaning to do this for a while. I have some short stories on Patreon about, people's time in Respite, and I have a few characters' names that pop up. And I think I'm going to start with those. I did an episode about kit bashing before, but that was mainly using like little bits of junk and little bits that everyone has, little bits of plastic, toothpicks, things like that. It's not going to be like that this episode. These characters, I want to do them justice. So I'm going to use actual bits from my bits box. And I think for once, I'm going to try and paint them well. I'm going to spend a bit of time on the painting because, last episode I made that giant hermit crab thing and I got a lot of compliments on how I painted the crab thing. And I thought, it's pretty easy. I'll try that next time on a miniature. I just spend a little bit longer on it, Took so long. But let's actually go through this bag of miniatures that I got at Salute. And, let's go with it, shall we? So today I'm going to be kit bashing some of my Respite citizens and I need some inspiration. So I've got this bag full of miniatures. Now these miniatures came from Salute Convention a couple of weeks ago. Miniature tabletop gaming convention. I think I talked about it. I was a special guest there. No one actually turned up to see me, but it got me out the house. That's not true, actually. People did turn up and they were very, very nice. So I haven't looked through these miniatures since I got them at Salute. Now this guy Cole looks to be an Ash from Evil Dead. I may keep him. He's pretty cool. I could, I could chop these guys up. Basically, I'm looking for inspiration. Sort of bodies that I want to use and chop up, and basically who I want to chop up and who I don't want to chop up. Like a very selective serial killer. Oh look, it's a Mel. Look, a Mad Mel or Mad Max. I'll keep him. And some more Stargrave miniatures. We can chop those up easy. I don't know what these are. Quite like that fat guy. Probably going to chop these guys up. It's quite sad to chop up miniatures, but that's kit bashing for you. Plus I've been watching Trent and Miscast for too long. So I've accumulated a ton of miniatures and parts over the years, and I'm just going to use them. I'm going to go crazy. So this episode is about kit bashing, but it's mainly about character design. Whenever I design anything, I go to my sketchbook and I do a few doodles. Now, if you're in doubt, just doodle, like I am here. They don't have to be good. Just get a few scribbles down on a page and ideas will start to form. Now, this is the first character, Tinker Tess. So on my Patreon, I upload little short stories, some lore, some background stories for characters and buildings in the town and things like that. And a lot of my patrons had already heard of Tinker Tess because she's a reoccurring character. She owns the shop in Respite, basically this building right here. Now, if Tess is called to fight, I imagine she would bring all of her most valuable possessions and, stock with her. So she'd be wearing lots of bags and she'd have lots of equipment on her back, almost like a pack rat, to be honest. I also imagine she would have really good guns because she keeps the best stuff for herself. And also, she is a female miniature, and she's going to be wearing a big trench coat, I think. I don't want a cleavage on show because I don't work for Games Workshop. Hopefully it will look something like this. Hopefully. So I think this body will be perfect. I like that coat. And this head, that is Tinker Tess's head, isn't it? That is exactly what I need. That is perfect. I believe this is a Fallout miniature from the Fallout tabletop game. The scale is slightly bigger, but hopefully it won't matter too much. It should just have a big head. It's fine. That's the head sorted. Now we just need stuff to go on her back, and lots of stuff. Maybe not all of it. It's a bit much. So now I need to work on her backpack, or backpacks. There's going to be pouches upon pouches and satchels upon satchels and weird gadgetry. Now there's going to be a lot. It may look a bit ridiculous, and I kind of want it to be a bit ridiculous. That is her main characteristic. When it comes to character design with miniatures, I think there's no room for subtlety. She's going to have lots of stuff on her back because she's a hoarder and she loves her stuff. Now you take one look at the miniature, you can see that. And then my job's done. So there you go. Tinker Tess, there's no room for subtlety, just like my videos. So this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Now Squarespace is a website where you go to make websites. Now if you have no idea how to make a website, you don't know how to do with a HTML, is it HTML? I'm not sure. And you just want to make a website about things like, like a pickle website, for example. Like that, like Pickle Perfection. That's it, Bill. Click there. If you just want to make a website that's quick and easy and clean and nicely designed, then go to Squarespace. I made this website in it must have been like 0.5 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer, I'm not sure, but it was really easy and it looks pretty good. And I will add stuff to it at some point. But if you want to make your own website, there's a sale going on at Squarespace. There's a little link down below. Go and have a look. After the episode, obviously. So the citizens of Respite are named after their profession, like Tinker Tess. She's a tinkerer, like in old England. So Mr. Mayor, funny enough, is the mayor of Respite. Now I've already seen a little chubby rotund miniature that I'm going to be using for this, and he has a very nice moustache, so I'm probably going to keep that. But there's a few additions I'm going to make, basically some epaulets, maybe a nice pipe, things like that. And I like the idea of him not having to lift a finger and having an automated gun on his backpack. Mr. Mayor comes from a long line of mayors. His dad was the mayor, his granddad was the mayor, and he owns the Rolling Rocker, which is this giant tank that kind of protects the town. So I want him to be kind of proud, I want him to be a bit flamboyant with his outfit, perhaps ex-military, but maybe not. Maybe he just wears the outfit because it kind of fits his kind of position of power. But either way, he's going to have some cool gun on his backpack and a giant pipe. And here he is, the perfect miniature. He's rotund with an amazing moustache, and he's even got a monocle there I didn't notice before. We can probably do something with that. And we need a backpack. Now, I'm not sure where this backpack is from, but it looks very technical and detailed, so we're going to use that. I feel a little like it's a little unfair. I have so many bits and I don't really buy any of these bits or play any of these games. People send me these bits via my PO box down below. I really appreciate it. And there we we go, an automated gun arm. I used guitar strings for those little wires. If you need guitar strings, just go to your local guitar shop and ask, for any of the off-cut guitar strings when they tune in new guitars. My local guitar shop, they know me, obviously, because I go in there and ask for guitar strings all the time. He's never seen the channel. Never seen it. Unless he's watching now. Are you watching now? So this guy already has a little monocle, but we need to just, make it a little bit more obvious. So we're going to use the smallest hemisphere bead thing I've got, which is, it's tiny. And we're going to stick it on his eye. Now, this wasn't easy, but, I made it look easy, so that's all that counts. And I made a little pipe. Now, this thing, look. And this is pipe number 3. Now, it's my favourite of the 3 pipes. And you may be thinking, why didn't I just go and look for the pipe that pinged off? It's long gone. It's on the floor. It's between the cracks of the floorboard. A spider's walking around smoking it as we speak. But there we go, Mr. Mayor. So the third character is a landlord, hence the name Landy, Buster Dow. Now, it sounds a bit like a pole dancer, I'm going to be honest, reading it back now. And I am terrible at naming things. I did warn you. So Landy Buster Dow is the owner of the King's End Inn, which is this building right here. He's also the local butcher. So I imagine he's quite muscular. So I like to think that the character will only use knives and perhaps a crossbow to, I imagine he hunts creatures to butcher, in his spare time, because he is, he's the local, but he provides most of the meat in the town and he's quite famous for it. Now I want him to almost be confused for a rustler. If you see him out in the wild, you'd probably think he was a rustler, causing all sorts of trouble. I think he'd be wearing lots of furs and animal parts and leathers and things like that. I like to imagine that he bounces his own bar. He would kick any unwanted visitors out. So I'm thinking giant arms, giant muscly arms, probably ridiculously big arms, just to kind of get across that point, the lack of subtlety that I was talking about earlier. So for Buster Dow, I'm going to use this body. It's a miniature for Fallout, which is slightly bigger than 28mm, which is fine because he's a big character. So I collected together all of the muscly arms I could find, and some of them have fur on the back. I assume they're from Beastmen miniatures. We can just shave that away. But we're looking for big. I mean, that's slightly too big, possibly. We're looking for big. Now, if you sent me any of these parts in the post via my PO box, let me know. There's a thing called Bits Bingo, where if you see your part, timestamp it, stick it in the comments down below, and you win. I'm not sure what you win. Probably nothing, because I just made it up. But, I could make it a thing. Yeah, I think I might just make it a thing. Anyway, here's a crossbow that I just made. I don't know why, I could have probably just found a crossbow in my bits box, but I decided to make one. And I put a little scope on there for that, that sci-fi-ness. Here is an orc skull that I think I got in a box of skulls, which is a weird sentence to say, but we're going to use that as some weird ornate necklace. Now, to stress the point that he's a butcher, I'm going to give him a giant knife. I mean a giant knife. Look at that. That's a bit... I'm slightly regretting it now. That looks a bit silly. It might not make the cut. No pun intended. It's just I might get rid of it. The fourth and final character for this episode, and there should be 10 people in my Stargrave squad, but this is taking forever, so maybe another video. Postie Jack. Now Postie means postman. This is the local postman, and he's called Jack Nam because he's called Jack Nam. It's a weird name. He's a weird guy. I imagine he's kind of skinny, gaunt and ugly, and there is a horrible story about him, but I'll tell you that in story time with Bill during the painting section. Now, Jack's story involves losing 3 out of 4 limbs, so he's got like a robot arm and 2 robot legs, so we need to take that in consideration. I like the idea of a power pack on his back, Like if that malfunctions, he's literally just a torso with an arm. You know, he'd have to drag himself to safety. I like that idea. You know, could be weird. I think also he may not be human. Maybe he's trying to pass himself off as human in some way. So he's going to be taller, he's going to be skinnier, weird, gaunt looking. And I think I'm going to give him a bowler hat, because who doesn't like a bowler hat? And there we go, Postie Jack Nam. So the main body is going to be this miniature from Stargrave. Now, I'm sure it's supposed to be an alien. It looks kind of almost human, which is kind of perfect for me. Now, 3 out of the 4 limbs are going to be robotic, so let's just trim them off. You know, one regret I have is using metal miniatures with kit bashing. It makes life so much harder. You know, just the sand, the weight is always off when you kind of mix plastic with metal. It's just, yeah, stick with plastic if you can. So I want Jack's limbs to look like they're a hodgepodge of different brands and manufacturers, like he's had to trade and salvage these limbs over a long period of time. You know, they're not readily available on the planet. Now he has one good arm, which he uses to like quick draw, I imagine. But I need a power pack on the back. I'm going to use this little thing. I'm not sure what that is, to be honest. And some guitar strings, again. Guitar Man, if you're watching, please let me know. You don't have to watch it, you know, if you're not really, if you're too cool playing guitar, you know, and growing your hair really long. Actually, I think if he watches it, he's probably going to think I'm pretty weird now. So probably best he doesn't. Not that you lot aren't cool, you know, like I'm quite glad you lot are watching me, but you know, you just don't own a guitar shop, so you know. And there we go, 4 kit bashed miniatures, and I've got to paint them now, haven't I? Oh. Hello again, it's me again, interrupting myself again. I just want to promote myself again. I have a Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's basically somewhere where you know, pay a little bit of money and it keeps the channel going. You know, ad revenue is terrible. You know, you don't get anything really. So I just want to shout that out and say, you know, if you like this channel, if you like what I'm doing and you want to keep this channel going, go and support me on Patreon. If you know, if you saw me down the street or at a bar, don't approach me. But honestly, if you ever met me in real life and you think, I'd buy you a coffee, I'd buy you, you know, a curly whirly or like a pint of beer. What's that, like £1.50 these days? I don't get out much. Consider just donating that on Patreon. That's all it costs, like a couple of quid. And it will keep this channel going. Only if you enjoy the channel. If you don't enjoy the channel and you go over there and start giving me money begrudgingly, that's going to make me feel bad. So, you know, don't do that. Despite the bit at the beginning, it is actually my birthday in a couple of weeks. I will be 40 years old, believe it or not. I mean, this is mainly super glue fumes that's done this. So I'm going to go over to America, to New Orleans, and I'm going to go visit a few other crafters you may have heard of. I'm not going to tell you their name. Budson, some guy called Roy Lay, some other guy called BB Binnies, someone called Raftsman, I think he has like a rafting channel, and someone called Binu. Yeah, you don't know who they are, but I'm going to be in New Orleans next week, visiting those people, and maybe we'll get some content out of it. We'll see. But if you're from that area, you know, and you know any cool hobby shops or cool hobby stuff that we should check out, or just anything cool to check out, leave a comment down below, or go on Discord and message me, or Instagram. It's going to be interesting. But that's what I'm doing for my 40th birthday. I thought I should let you know. If you want to buy me a present, I do have a wish list down below. That was a bit cheeky, wasn't it? But that's it. Let's... What? No, you definitely can't come. What do you mean, why? You're wanted in 68 different countries. You're not coming. Don't worry about it. Let's just get back to it. So I primed the models in a Zenithal primer, and as I did, the knife just kind of disintegrated. It fell off and exploded and stuff. I just got rid of it. It was too big, far too big. We're going to start with Tinker Tess because she looks like the hardest to paint. And, you know, I'm actually going to try today. I think I mentioned it before. So just to base colour these things, I'm going to use Speed Paint 2.0 if they have the right colour for it. For these satchels, it's going to be perfect, but I'm not really going to rely on Speed Paint too much because I don't particularly like them, to be honest. They're a bit weird. They look weird to me, so I'm just going to use the 2 thin coat range to highlight and to build up upon it. But anyway, that's enough paint talk from me. Now it's story time with Bill. Now we've got 4 little stories, not really stories, just little bits of lore and a little bit more information about the characters that I've created. So here we go. Sit down, huddle up, make sure you've got a nice little hot drink to hand, and painting time is boring time, which is story time with Bill. I may have just misquoted myself, but I'm not going to go back and check. So here we go, Tinker Tess. So Tinker Tess owns the Big Green Wing trading post, which is the main trading post in Respite. Now Tess is a collector. She loves to collect treasure and technology and weird artifacts that people go out on the wastes and bring back and sell to her or trade with her, and she is sitting on some of the most advanced technology known to man. Tess has 0 social skills. She comes across slightly insane to most people, but she is possibly the smartest person on Tapu, at least in Respite. Now Tess has been known to kill people on the spot, if you're a shoplifter, or if you approach her secret stash, she'll shoot you then and there. But what looks like insanity to everyone else, to her, she sees it as a noble duty to protect them from themselves. Some of the stuff she sits on would destroy the town in an instant. Some of the stuff would sink the whole continent. But most people in Respite have no idea, obviously, and they just see her as a crazy bag lady, which, she also is. So Buster Dow is the landlord of the King's End Inn, which is why he's known as Landy Buster Dow. Not only does he own the inn, he's also the butcher for the town and the local hunter. He goes out and hunts the meat, brings it back, butchers it, and sells it to meat tourists. Now, meat tourism is a big thing. Meat has been outlawed on most civilized planets. They see it as murder, but in Respite, murder's fine, apparently. Now Buster's pretty gritty, he does go out, he'll kill himself a skull-faced bear, he'll go hunting for scrap beasts, the baby ones, not the big ones, and he'll bring back the meat for people to eat. But, when he's out in the wild, with his animal skins and his furs and his animal bones and his blades, he looks kind of like a Ruster. The Rusters are savage men who are hunted by the people of Respite, and vice versa. There are people that come to Respite just to hunt Rusters. Some of these non-local Ruster hunters will be out in the wilderness. They'll stumble across Buster, see him with his animal skins and his furs and his giant metal blade, and think, that's a Ruster, fair game. It never ends well for these Ruster hunters, but then again, Buster ends up with more meat to feed the meat tourists, some exclusive meat just for them. Buster has been known to sympathise with the Rusters. There are a few in town that sympathise with them, and there are a few in town that absolutely hate Rusters and want them wiped off the face of the planet. Buster isn't one of these people, which is why he absolutely hates Jack Nam. Now Jack is the postie, or the postman. It's not quite the same as a postman nowadays. Basically, he would receive signals from passing spaceships, relayed messages, which he would then relay to the townspeople. Being the postie gives Jack the feeling of superiority over the other citizens. He knows everyone's business. People in the town of Respite, despite it being filled with murderers, thieves, treasure hunters and bounty hunters, they think he's a bit of a scumbag. Now Jack hates Rusters. He hates Rusters more than anyone could hate anything. And there is a big story behind this. Whilst Jack was performing his postman duties out in the wilderness, he was captured by Rusters. Now these Rusters tied him down, they chopped off one arm and 2 legs, and they decided to cook them right in front of him. The interesting thing is that Rusters don't actually eat people. They just like to chew the meat, spit it out in front of them as a sign of disrespect. For days, Jack had to watch this happen in front of him. He was conscious the whole time. They were working their way round to every limb, but at the last moment, the rolling rocker turned up, saved the day. The mayor saved Jack and brought him back to town. So ever since then, Jack has been the leader of a secret anti-Ruster league. Basically, they go out and hunt Rusters on a nightly basis. They want to wipe them away from the continent, more than most. There's certain slogans going around like humans first and things like that, but there's rumours going around town that Jack isn't even human. They've noticed that one of his hands has 3 fingers and a thumb. His head is pretty elongated. His whole body is kind of elongated and very alien-like. Jack denies it until he's blue in the face, but then he reapplies the makeup, and then everyone thinks he's human again. He has a robotic arm and 2 robotic legs, all being served by one motor on his back. Once that motor fails, he's kind of stuck crawling across the floor, much to Buster Dale's amusement. So the last character we're going to cover in this episode is Mr. Mayor. Mayor being his job and surname at the same time. Mr. Mayor is obviously the richest person in town, the biggest landowner in town, and he owns the Rolling Rocker, which basically protects the town. Now, this was all passed down to him from Mr. Mayor, his father, and Mr. Mayor, his grandfather, and Mr. Mayor, his great-grandfather. But, he's not a horrible person. He's quite a jolly person. He's quite well-liked around town. Now, the mayor in Respite is no different to a mayor in, our day. A mayor is just not a real position of power, basically a symbol of power that has no power whatsoever, really, And there's no difference for Mr. Mayor. He's basically just a symbol of the town of Respite. But unlike mayors of today, Mr. Mayor does actually have, literal power. He has a backpack laser gun arm that can just wipe out anything, with a blink of an eye. He has a rolling fortress called the Rolling Rocker, which is a giant tank which can wipe the town out. So he does have power, but luckily he's a pretty jolly bloke. Now, the uniform of the Respite Mayor is this military uniform that's been passed down from Mr. Mayor to Mr. Mayor to Mr. Mayor. You get the point. The mayor, being a position of non-power, he really does take it on himself to defend the town. He's in charge of the town's most powerful weapons. He feels it is his obligation to protect the town. But he does use the Rolling Rocker to provide scenic tours in the desert. If you're lucky, he'll take you on a tour where you can go and see the rusty peaks, maybe the odd skull-faced bear, scrap beast, perhaps even the giant godhead in the sand. And also, if you're very lucky, he may destroy a Ruster encampment with the Rolling Rocker, just for, your entertainment. He has been known to do that in the past, but as he says, those Rusters, they're just not very nice. And that's it for Storytime. I hope you enjoyed that. And let's make some crustard, shall we? If you're new to the channel and you're thinking, what the hell is Tapu, what the hell is Respite, go check out my Patreon. It's all up there. And it's just basically lore for the builds I build. I need some sort of story to justify the build. And that's all it is. So, go and watch it. I'll wait here. That took so long, so long. I mean, I might make fun of miniature painting channels, but I mean, they do a pretty good job, and it seems to be in a quick turnover. That took me ages, like a day a miniature. Is that like ridiculously slow? I'm not sure. You tell me. I don't really paint miniatures that often. I built like that hermit crab thing in 2 days. Ridiculous. But if you enjoyed me actually trying to paint stuff, let me know, because I will try and paint stuff in the future. I do feel quite proud that the paint job is actually pretty good, and it does my kit bashes justice, which is, I should probably do that to all my builds. I do regret using metal miniatures. If you're going to kit bash, try and stick to plastic, because you can like melt them, bend them, warp them, and it's just easier to cut. And when I pick up the miniature and half of it's metal, half of it's plastic, it feels like it's just off balance and it's going to fall to pieces. But I'm going to go and pack and get ready to go to New Orleans. Glamour shots up in a minute. I'm going to document my time there and make a little video out of it, because I'm not here to make a video. So, it's probably the only content I'm going to be able to provide. I'm sorry. If you don't want to see my holiday video, just look away. When it comes up, just nope. You could do that if you want. You can always. That's always an option. And that's about it. Anything from you? No, you are not coming. And there we are, a couple of citizens of respite for you. You voted for this build, so I did it. You probably wanted more citizens, but to be honest with you, painting these things took me days, took me way longer than, I could have built a whole table for the terrain in the amount of time it took for me to paint these things. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with someone else, like it, leave a comment, tell me which character you like the best. Join Patreon to learn more about the lore. If you would buy me a drink, like I said earlier, go and spend £2 on Patreon. It's less than a coffee, so, and it really keeps the channel going. I'm going to go now and pack and head off to New Orleans, but before I do, I just want to say a big thank you to my patrons. Thank you, patrons. You've been making awesome builds in every monthly challenge on Discord. I'm really impressed with that stuff. I wish I could stay on there and chat to you more often, but I've got to do stuff like this. But I do really